Hey folks, everything new under the sun. Just some quick comments about the Ohio train derailment. Now, this started last week during all the balloon stuff. Were the balloons just a distraction from what was actually happening on the ground in Ohio? Also, political things, Ukraine, Russia. Was it a big distraction? I think it was. I think it was a direct distraction. And of course, what is all the mainstream media talking about? Well, they're talking about the balloons. Certainly not talking much about this. A couple of comments on it, and the ask as to whether you folks were ready for this. I did put a poll up there and about in the community channel there about whether you saw this coming, whether you were prepared for it in terms of being prepared for the last days. And I think a majority of you determined that, in fact, you were not ready for this sort of thing. You hadn't seen this sort of thing coming, and neither did I, to be honest. We weren't ready for this. We're ready for, the zombie apocalypse, but not for a massive chemical spill that is then in the groundwater, because I had basically planned. We have a spring in our property. I had basically planned to drink from that, and so not keeping bottled water. But should if a chemical plant exploded or something nearby, I might not have that option. So the fallout continues from the derailment of a train carrying toxic chemicals near the Ohio-Pennsylvania border. Local residents filed lawsuits about it, and they're worrying about the air and the water. So 50 trains. On February 3rd, this happened, remember? So 2 weeks ago, basically, this happened. And have you heard much about it? Probably not. I certainly haven't. Train cars operated north by Norfolk Southern derailed, and apparently it was due to an error with the axles, a fault in the axles that some electronic equipment detected, which caused the brakes and the engineers to slam on the brakes, which led to the derailment here. And so what they did was the officials apparently decided to set this afire because they didn't want one of the trains exploding uncontrollably, which would send shrapnel for a mile. Within the last 2 hours, a drastic temperature change is taking place in a rail car, and there is now potential catastrophic tanker failure, which could cause an explosion with the potential deadly shrapnel traveling up to a mile. And one of the chemicals they are most concerned about was vinyl chloride. Now, this is a colorless gas used in the making of plastic products, and the National Cancer Institute said that exposure to the gas is associated with increased risk of rare form of liver cancer, as well as primary liver cancer, brain, lung cancers, lymphoma, leukemia. The chemical can also enter water supplies and be ingested. So, I mean, you're talking about the sort of disaster that would take place, maybe by covert operatives, and this would be an ideal thing for Russia to be doing in the U.S. I'm not saying it was. I'm thinking this would be ideal. This is really, for all the residents around there for miles, the groundwater could now be absolutely contaminated. They're in a situation where they would literally have to bug out. They thought they were in the middle of nowhere, and they may literally not be able to rely on their well water, their spring water, their chickens, their animals. They pretty much have to bug out. And would you have been ready for this? I'll go down to where it's commenting on the animals here, because this is interesting. Taylor Holzer, registered foxkeeper who runs a daily farm with his family adjacent to the evacuation zone. Last week, one of his foxes had died following the derailment. And the rest have exhibited a variety of unusual symptoms, including lack of appetite, upset stomach, lethargy, as well as rapid pacing and abnormally puffy faces. Smoke and chemical from the train, that's the only thing that can cause it, because it doesn't just happen out of nowhere. The chemicals that we're being told are safe in the air, definitely not safe. Again, were you prepared for this sort of thing to happen? Going down to this section, my camera footage shows my chickens were perfectly fine before they started this burn. And as soon as they started the burn, my chickens slowed down and died. If it can do this to the chickens in one night, imagine what's going to do for us in 20 years. So livestock. Again, you're living in the sticks. You think you're prepped. you're ready to go for any potential EMP weapon or nuclear weapon taking out maybe one of the large cities. What happens if someone comes in and simply starts destroying these chemical laden trains? And all across the US, all of a sudden, you're drinking water, your animals are dying. What are you going to do then? Did you have a bug out plan for that? Did you have fresh water stored for that? And I got to say, I do not have fresh water stored in the case that the groundwater becomes contaminated. I don't know what I would do here. And this is just a warning to you all. And get ready. We don't know what's coming. We are likely to be unprepared for really what will come of uh, World War III, financial and economic collapse, and famine that's coming upon us. And that's why I keep saying you got to hedge all your bets. You got to have a variety of things in operation. You got to have things stocked and stored. You may not need them, but you may be able to barter them. They may be completely useless, or they may be the most important thing that you stocked up and stored up. We don't know what's coming. These residents didn't know either. So be prepared, folks. I will say that God maybe sometimes allows these things to wake us up and to say, you know what, you need to be ready for this situation. You need to be ready for that situation. I think this is one of those times where we look inwards and say, was I ready for this? Was I prepared? And maybe talk to some of the Ohio residents. What would you do in this situation? This is a great example of a massive chemical spill, and there's going to be fallout over miles and miles and miles as the wind blows this from the quote unquote controlled burn that they're doing. And how does this affect you, and what you've gotten ready for? And this is going to set a lot of people back. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll leave it there. Quick video. Be prepared. You don't know what's coming.